another show of Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Another big show lined up for you this week. I know you'll think so after viewing it. Hawkeyes win last week, homecoming against Northwestern, a big 33-13 victory. Hawks are now 4-4, 2-3 in the Big Ten. Purdue looms large this weekend, so we'll talk about that with former Hawkeye James Vandenberg, former Hawkeye quarterback, and also we're talking Iowa Hawkeye men's basketball. I know I said we're going to talk some wrestling as the year goes on, as well as the women's Bluters Bunch women's basketball team, but we're talking Hawkeye basketball after last night's exhibition victory over our good buddy Jeff Horner's Truman State Bulldogs. So we record this as always on Tuesday afternoon. It's November 1st, so welcome to November, and welcome to Craig and Stacy Schroeder with Fight with Flash. Craig, Stacy, thanks for joining us. Stacy, we're going to get to that big pick. You almost called the exact score. Great pick, Hawkeye victory.
Yeah, go Hawks.
Yeah, go Hawks indeed. Rest on your laurels for just 1 second. So, Craig, we have a date for the bourbon auction online. Get us up to speed if you would, please.
Yes, November 11th through the 14th, it'll be going on. And again, it's a Facebook group, so if everybody interested, they just need to reach out to me and ask me, and then I would vouch for them and get them a part of the Angel Share group and be a part of it and have a chance to win some extremely rare and hard to find bourbon.
You guys have done a fantastic job coming off a very big high from the Fight with Flash Baseball Classic this summer, the golf tournament this fall, and now the auction from last year. I know it's going to go well this year. Thank you for that, Craig. So, Stacy, and again, folks, friend Craig Schroeder at Fight with Flash via Facebook, or Craig Schroeder via Facebook, or fightwithflash.org. So, Stacy. Mm-hmm. Time to talk Hawkeyes. Wow. Hey, first of all, I want to mention a mutual friend, of you guys. I've become one of him because of you folks, and we are going to try to get Dick Vitale on this show, as we mentioned last year through Craig and Stacy, with all the Coaches versus Cancer. Fantastic work Dickie V does with the Jimmy V Foundation with ESPN, but also the Fight with Flash Foundation. Of course, Dick had his own battle last year, back-to-back years, and has still survived at 82, 83 years old, and got a full ESPN broadcast schedule coming up for men's basketball this year, but we're going to try to get Dick on this show at some point through the Schraders. But Stacy and Craig and I were talking off the air. He had another checkup the other day, clean bill of health, so good news on Dickie V. Yes, keep it rolling.
Awesome.
So let's talk some predictions, Stacy. Purdue has always been, especially recently, a thorn in the Hawkeyes' side. Jeff Brom and the Boilermakers, of course, all the Charlie Jones noise of he left Iowa and he's doing great at a wide receiver for Purdue, and Tyrone Tracy transferred last year. You're putting all that noise aside. Stacy's saying, get rid of all that noise. Give us the Hawks at Boilermakers, 11 o'clock kick Saturday morning on FS1. What are we doing, Stace?
Okay, Hawks are, of course, going to win it again. I'm feeling it for them. We are going with 34-22 Hawks.
The 22, Fight with Flash, of course. Go Hawks indeed. 30, another offensive juggernaut. You called 36 last week. Hawks got 33.
Yeah.
I like the way you're thinking, trending upward. Stacy and I and Craig are all in agreement. Hawks will be 3-3 in the Big Ten after this Saturday, and 5-4 overall. Let's do it. Go Hawks, as Stacy says. All right. So for Craig and Stacy Schroeder, guys, thanks so much.
Yep, thanks, Dave.
Truly my pleasure. And you're welcome and thank you. So for Craig and Stacy Schroeder and Fight with Flash, we'll be back with more Hawkeye and James Vandenberg in just a few moments. Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. James times two, the James gang again. James Vandenberg and James Morris joining us. James Vandenberg, former Hawkeye quarterback, and James Morris, former Hawkeye linebacker. So James Morris and James Vandenberg, thanks for joining us as always. So James Morris, let's start with you this week. The Hawkeye offense kind of got rid of some ghosts and demons, very Halloween theme here. And they put a scare into Northwestern last week and finally, did you like that? Finally put over all that corny corn candy. Yeah, I know, another Halloween reference. But they got over the Pat Fitzgerald curse, so to speak. And man, Northwestern and Pat Fitzgerald have had Kirk Ferentz on the Hawks numbers, but the Hawks did it well last week at homecoming. Big 33-13 victory over Northwestern, and it was the offense, James Morris.
Yeah, it's a much needed win for the guys there. And certainly, as you alluded to, that's a program that's had our number. I said, pre-recording here that I've been on some Iowa teams that lost to some pretty average Northwestern teams. So it's a question of how good they are maybe and how you comp this win, to the games we played and the games going forward. But I think right now Iowa needed a win and they needed to put some points on the board, and they were able, and they got both of those things done last week. So players should feel good. Fan base should feel better. And hopefully that will start some momentum for really the final third of the season here.
And James Morris, before I switch over to James Vandenberg, let's ask you real quick about the defense. Obviously did their job again, kept Northwestern in check, although Northwestern had struggles on offense all year long like Iowa has. But the defense did their job, and I can't sit there and say, well, it was just Northwestern. I don't care who you line up against. You guys both know those guys on the other side of the field are on scholarship too. So kudos to your defensive mates, James.
Yeah, and I know those guys are liking it. When you have balance and you go in to watch film the next day and you've got 45 or 50 clips to go through instead of 70 or 75, you're feeling a little bit better. And I know this guy's probably a little more legs underneath him on Sunday and Monday this week too.
Fantastic stuff. So James Vandenberg, let's talk that offense. You and James both all year long have been saying, Dave, if we can get guys healthy, if the line can make the blocks, the backs can make the catches and the runs, and the receivers can make the catches, Spencer Petras can do some things. He got the start Saturday. They didn't pull him because he did pretty darn well on Saturday with everything else going pretty darn well for the offense and the Hawkeyes. So let's talk a little bit about your offensive mates in the Iowa Hawkeye offense, please, James Vandenberg.
No, yeah. I mean, we've talked about it all year. The foundation of both sides of the ball is the line for us. And we certainly controlled the line of scrimmage Saturday. I mean, just made big strides. I mean, running the ball, protecting the passer. But I think it even starts before it's running the ball. It's controlling the line of scrimmage. It's getting into 2nd and 5 and not 2nd and 9. And what that does from a play calling standpoint. We joked last week that there aren't just X's and O's that are just going to make us score 50 points. And although after Saturday, there may be some people believing that, really, we just played better fundamental football and took a step in the right direction.
I think so too. And let's talk about the game itself. Jeff Brom and Purdue, like Pat Fitzgerald and Northwestern the week before, they've had Kirk Ferentz at Iowa's number recently. So the Hawks need to pay attention to detail. Let's talk about Saturday's game upcoming at Purdue, 11 o'clock kick on FS1.
They're a tough opponent. Aiden O'Connell, I was at that game last year, and I was really impressed. Yeah, he had David Bell, but still, they're a good offensive scheme, and they do a good job of attacking us kind of through the air, which not very many teams do. So great challenge and a great opportunity against a Big Ten West foe.
You know, James Morris, and thank you for that, James Vandenberg. James Morris, you and I talked last year when you talked about David Bell and Aiden O'Connell and Purdue and the way they confused the defense, and you played for Phil Parker. You know what that's like. Let's talk about some of those issues that Purdue and their offense and Charlie Jones and Aiden O'Connell could create for the Hawkeye defense this week, James.
Yeah, I think looking back to last year, and I mean, even this runs through prior Purdue staffs, but I always felt like that was a team that had a pretty good understanding of our defense. And I don't want to get too technical, but there are certain teams that when they play Iowa, they may try to stick with what they do best. And sometimes that doesn't always match up favorably for them with our concepts. I think this is probably a game where you've got an offensive staff that is pretty flexible and pretty adaptive, and their base schemes have given us problems historically. So if I'm Phil, I'm saying, hey, this is a game that we're probably going to get challenged, and you're going to have to come up with some creative solutions, both from a coverage standpoint and also getting pressure on this guy. You think about a defensive game plan and how you build the defensive game plan. The base of the pyramid is typically stop the run. But for this group, I think you almost have to flip it upside down and say, hey, what are we going to do to really shore up our passing game here, pass defense here, and then push these guys into a strategy that they're maybe a little less comfortable with.
Well, I'm glad that you got somewhat technical because that explained it very well, James Morris. So James Vandenberg, former Hawkeye quarterback, and James Morris, former Hawkeye linebacker, thank you both so much. And James Morris, we'll see you soon.
Yep, see you, Dave. Thanks,
You're very welcome. And James Vandenberg, hopefully we'll see you soon as well.
Thanks, Dave.
You're very welcome. So for the Jameses, I'm Dave O'Hara on Hawkeye. We'll be back with more. Jess Settles, former Hawkeye basketball playing great. Jess called the game last night. Again, we record this on Tuesday, November 1st. The exhibition game last night at Carver Hawkeye Arena between Jeff Horner and his Truman State Bulldogs, another former Hawkeye basketball playing great. And Jeff will join us on the show starting next week and continuing weeks. So we'll have Jeff Horner next week. But Jess Settles right now upcoming after this commercial break, talking Iowa Hawkeyes. So back with more Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara, in just a few moments.
From Tice Chevrolet. We've lived through some very interesting times the last few months. Ensuring everyone's safety is more important than ever. That is why we are participating in the Chevy Clean program. At your request, we will pick up your vehicle, Service it and return it after we've cleaned it using the current CDC guidelines. This is just another way to work towards exceeding your expectations. So give us a call and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Who do you trust to produce the best yield? A seat company that's chasing technology or a seat company that's writing a book on it? Merschman Seeds is a leader in technology. We're independent and family owned. Our sister company, MS Technologies, provides access to world-class traits and genetics. And our starting line seed treatment is second to none. Who can you trust with your yields? Merschman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. There he is. There's our buddy Jess Settles. He is in the field at Harvest. Our farmer, Jess Settles, not only is he a Southeast Iowa native, former Hawkeye legend, one of the greats basketball players in Iowa history, but Jess, an Iowa farmer and in Harvest right now. So Jess, I know just got you off the tractor. You were out of the broadcast booth last night. Again, we record this show on Tuesday, November 1st. The exhibition game last night against our good buddy Jeff Horner and Truman State Bulldogs, another former Hawkeye great. Tell us a little bit, well, first of all, thanks for joining us as always, and tell us a little bit about what you saw last night. The Hawks looked good, but so did Jeff Horner's Bulldogs.
Yeah, I love the way both teams played. You have to tip your hat to both squads. The Truman State kids came out and really fought. Jeff Horner had them ready to play. Great game plan. Really it just came down to size and speed and quickness, which is the difference between D1 and D2. But you could tell he coached them right to the very end. They weren't afraid of the moment. They shot the ball pretty well, especially that first 15 minutes. But obviously the Iowa team took control when they needed to take control. Murray was amazing. He's going to have a great year. Connor McCaffrey couldn't miss last night. And point guard's been solid as well.
So, Jess, we were talking about, all that starting lineup. You talked about point guard Tony Perkins. That's starting five, and then Connor McCaffrey comes in off the bench and hits 4 threes right away. And, Jess, I know you and I talked about this last year. That's a starting five that may not have a 7-footer or a 6'11 guy in Luka Garza. But now if people don't know when broadcasters talk and coaches talk about length, Jess, those guys at 6'8", 6'9", the Sanfords and the McCaffreys and LeBraches, they've got a lot of length, and that extends their height, doesn't it, Jess?
Yeah, no doubt, Dave. I mean, it's not your first rodeo. You've seen a lot of basketball in your day, and that length matters. They were good defensively last night, and the Truman State kids ran a lot of ball screen continuity, and they'd get some decent looks, right? But that length would close out on them so quickly. A lot of deflections, a lot of little blocks mixed in with a hand in your face. It just makes it tough to score against. And they sitting courtside last night, this Hawkeye team, they're long, they're lean, they're really fast, very explosive. I think Fran McCaffrey, I thought last year coming into the season, I talked to Connor before the first preseason game and talked to Coach. I thought there were a lot more question marks. No one knew Keegan was going to blow up and be a lottery pick. They knew he was going to be good. They knew he'd be that dominant. The health questions with Connor and Jordan Bohannon. I just felt like last night, hey, they feel like they have a good team. They're probably flying a little bit under the radar, but it was I think they're ahead of schedule this year compared to last year. Now, we obviously know at the end of the year last year they were one of the best teams in the country. So we'll just see how that plays out.
I think you nailed it right there, and it was a great homecoming last night for you as a broadcaster, being a former Hawkeye great, but you saw the reception Jeff Horner got courtside with Fran McCaffrey, Matt Gatens, former Hawkeye great player. Matt Gatens now under the fold or in the fold with Fran McCaffrey's coaching staff. But for you, Jess, you told me something great off the air, and I want to bring this on the air. 15 of the top 20 scorers in the Big Ten this year, from last year to this year, aren't back. And so the Big Ten, you mentioned the Hawks flying under the radar, the Big Ten might not be what it was the last handful of years, especially last year. So that this Hawkeye team could really do some damage with the way they're going to get it off the glass, play some defense. You mentioned that length. They're going to be able to score some points. I know it was an exhibition game and 118 points, but I don't think there's a doubt this team can score, Jess.
Oh, there's just no question. I mean, it's like you say, okay, Luka Garza is gone, National Player of the Year, scoring's going to drop off, aren't going to be as competitive. Well, that didn't happen. Then now Keegan comes and fills the gap. Then Keegan's gone, and well, the scoring's going to be down again. Well, it doesn't happen. Fran McCaffrey's teams play with the throttle down at all times. They put so much pressure on a defense. had a good talk with Patrick McCaffrey last night, and he said, we're just so difficult to guard.
Yeah.
We don't run a ton of sets. Their sets are great when they do run them, but they don't run a ton of sets. A lot of motion, a lot of reading the screens, and it's just hard to prepare for them. Everybody knows what they're going to do. They're going to come down, and they're going to screen, and they're going to cut, and they're going to shoot a lot of threes. This team could be an elite three-point shooting team. With Patrick on one side, Chris on the other, and then Sanford may be the best shooter in the conference. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. Rabracha can step out a little bit. I hope he does take that 15-footer. But overall, I mean, you look at Indiana. Trace Jackson Davis is back. They've gotten older. He's a great basketball player, but they still have a lot to prove. They're just a lot of guys who are going to step up and come out of nowhere. You know, when I say we as a league, obviously we're humbled in the tournament last year. I mean, anybody who filled out a bracket is a little bit bitter at the Big Ten, right? That's just the way it is. But so, yeah, there are a lot of question marks. That's good for Iowa. They'll be right in the mix, I think, when we start talking in February and March.
Jess, I can't even begin to say thank you enough. He's Iowa farmer, Jess Settles, former Hawkeye basketball playing great, and now broadcaster for the Big Ten Network and Fox Television, and a friend of this show, and Jess, a friend of mine. Again, I can't not just thank you for today stepping in and pinch hitting, jumping off the tractor during harvest season for Jeff Horner, jumping in and being on the show for Jeff Horner, but all the friendship that over the years you've been on my radio shows and TV shows. It's always great talking to you and catching up with you, and we're going to do it again real soon around your schedule, all right?
You're a good buddy, and all your listeners are my people, man. You know, I appreciate everything everybody's ever done for me, and Southeast Iowa, and playing at Winfield and all down in Van Buren and Keosauqua and Farmington and, Quincy and all through those areas, West Point.
Yep.
So shout out to all the farmers out there. I hope everybody's having a good harvest, and it's always great to be on. But you tell Horner, I like that medium rare. You tell him that.
He owes you and me both large. I promise you I'll tell him that, Jess. You take care of yourself, and thanks again, Jess. We'll talk real soon. Thanks, Jess. All right. For Jess Settles, I'm Dave O'Hara. We'll be back with more to close out the show. Hawkeyed with Sean Bock, Hawkeye Insider from CBS Sports and 24/7. Back with more in just a few moments.
To have a strong finish, you need an excellent start. It's true on the track and also in the field. That's why Mershman Seeds works tirelessly to deliver cutting-edge technology year after year. Introducing Starting Line, Mershman Seeds' latest advancement in seed treatment, now providing added protection from white mold and sudden death syndrome all season. Ask for Starting Line seed treatment from Mershman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Hi, I'm Joel from Tice Automotive Family. We're living through some of the most interesting and challenging times many of us have ever seen. Knowing who you can rely on is more important than ever. Many of us turn to our families to get us through, and the same holds true here. From our fair upfront pricing to exceptional service after the sale, we truly want to exceed your expectations. So give us a call or stop by and let us show you what it means to be part of the Tice Automotive family.
Make next harvest your best harvest with Mershman Seeds. First, our connection to MS Technologies makes us an industry leader for Enlist E3 soybean genetics. Second, Starting Line seed treatment, our most advanced seed treatment, comes standard with added protection against both sudden death syndrome and white mold. Third, upgrade with Saltro and Trunemco for maximum protection against sudden death syndrome and soybean cyst nematodes. There's only one leader in soybean technology, Mershman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. There's our buddy Sean Bock. Sean, how you doing?
Good, Dave.
Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Sean with CBS Sports and 24/7 Hawkeye Insider. Sean, there's so much to get through as I chuckle. We've got Hawkeye Wrestling is going to be top of the country when Spencer Lee gets back at it here in just a couple of weeks, couple of matches. We've got Iowa Women's Basketball, number 4 in the country. We have a men's and women's doubleheader on Monday the 7th. Men first this year. I kind of like that against Bethune-Cookman. And then the women will play Southern University, and that'll be fun. And the women right now ranked number 4 in Caitlin Clark, preseason All-American, preseason Player of the Year, and not just in the Big Ten but in the nation. We saw what the Hawkeye men's basketball team did in their exhibition, like the women women's team and their exhibition did very well. So let's talk a little bit. I mean, we talked football with the Jameses, Vandenberg and Morris. So let's you and I talk some recruiting, the building blocks of these successful programs. Let's start with football recruiting. The sidelines have been just filled with Hawkeye recruits upcoming. So let's let you talk a little bit about that for us, please.
Yeah, Iowa had 5 official visitors on campus this past weekend, and actually got some good news before the weekend started with Iowa Western defensive tackle Ontario Thompson committing to the Hawkeyes over NC State, Kansas,
Great.
Illinois, Nebraska. A Dubuque Hempstead product. I believe he didn't qualify his junior year academically in high school, and then qualified his senior year. Grades were still a little behind, so he went to Iowa Western, fixed all that stuff up, and now is, going to be a Hawkeye, which is pretty cool story.
That really is.
With all that he's kind of gone throughout his high school and college career, and he has a chance to make an immediate impact on that defensive line. I mean, listed at 6'2", around 295 pounds. More of a defensive tackle right now. Ran a 4.6 40-yard dash. This summer.
Wow.
At his size. So he's got some twitch. He's pretty fast. He uses his hands well, and he has 3 years of eligibility, and there's a chance that he could come in right away and make a pretty big impact.
That's the key I like hearing you say. He's got experience, but now he's got 3 years of eligibility. Repeat his name for us again, please.
Ontario Thompson.
Cannot wait for that. That immediate impact, like you said, next year. That'll be fantastic. You know what I love, Sean, is they tell athletes and kids all the time, boys and girls in high school, to play multiple sports.
Yep.
Well, you got crossover sports now from lacrosse to basketball, and now with football. That's great stuff. So let's talk some Hawkeye basketball. And Dembali, we've got a couple of other big names that the Hawks are looking at. And boy, men's team anyway, really building a nice network of players throughout, not just Midwest, but throughout the country, Sean. Fran McCaffrey is.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before on the show with the Moline kids committed, Brock Hardy and Owen Freeman. And then you have Waukee Northwest 4-star Price Sanford, who a lot of Iowa fans are going to get to know Peyton this year, if they hadn't already. But they're looking to add another high school big man to this class. And Laji Dembele, excuse me if my pronunciation's wrong, 6'8" posts, more of like a common combo forward out of Newark, New Jersey, St. Benedict's preps out there. Took an official visit to Iowa this weekend. Doesn't do a lot of interviews or anything, so it's tough to get a gauge, but I talked to a couple people pretty close to his recruitment, and sounds like Wake Forest is going to be the last visit for him. Then he's going to make his decision. So it's down to Iowa, Pittsburgh, DePaul, and Wake Forest at this point in time. Rutgers might be in there too, but those are the main 4 schools. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this weekend, because Iowa hasn't had a ton of success with recruiting these 2023 posts. Obviously missing out on J.P. Estrella was pretty big. There are a couple others that come to mind as well. Jaden Hastings, who was supposed to visit, but went to Boston College instead. Things didn't work out there, but the staff's really hopeful they can end up with Laji, who'd be a pretty, not immediate impact guy, but I think a little bit of a unique forward that Iowa hasn't had in a couple years.
When you mentioned he's out of Newark and New Jersey, I'm thinking to myself, Steve Peichel and Rutgers is going to try to push themselves in there as a Big Ten rival of Iowa, but just as you said, to throw their hat in the ring. But that is great stuff. And so the cupboard is never bare at Iowa, and all these universities, they got to restock and reload. And you do a fantastic job of covering recruiting for us here, but also on CBS Sports and also 24/7 Sports, Hawkeye Insider Sean Bock. Sean, great stuff as always.
Thank you, Dave.
You're very welcome. Thanks for being here. So for Sean Bock, Jess Settles, James Vandenberg, James Morris, Craig and Stacy Schroeder, and to you, the viewers, I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. Thanks also to my good buddy Michael Merrick behind the camera. So for you, the viewers, I'm Dave O'Hara for Hawkeye. That's all from me. Thanks to all of you. And as always, thanks for staying tuned at the end of the program for these rolling credits to give our advertisers and sponsors the attention and credit they so richly deserve. And as always, to our aforementioned guests and to you, the viewers. That's all from us at Hawkeye. Thanks to all of you.